Welcome to Stitchery Stories, where textile artists share their life in fabric and thread, inspiration, techniques, disasters and delights. And I'm Susan Reeks, enthusiastic embroiderer and textile art dabbler who also loves podcasting. So take a break and enjoy our light-hearted chat, and please share with your friends so they can enjoy it too. Hello and welcome to my final episode of 2022. Do you know, a recurring theme is how much comfort and joy creative activities bring us. So I thought it would be lovely to hear your stories of creative joy from 2022. But not only that, to give us an opportunity to hear about those people that helped bring that joy for you. The joy bringers, as I decided to call them. So a massive thank you to all of you who took the time to send in your joy. As usual, I have created a blog post for this episode on the stitcherystories.com site. Each contributor will be listed with their links and also the details and links for their joy bringers. So I won't read out all of the links. Go to the episode on stitcherystories.com, get all the links on there. Now, I also sent a quick question asking what your favourite techniques were, and again got some lovely replies. So I featured a selection of those too, which are along the same theme of joy and yet more shout-outs to others. And please tell your friends about this episode, share on socials through stories, or write your own post. Write your own blog post, maybe with an image of you busy making and creating whilst listening. We can bring joy to others by sharing what we love. And it's always very much appreciated. Okay, here we go, and on to our first lovely contributor, Jackie Big E from Virginia in the USA. Susan, what a delightful idea. Now, I have several activities that bring me joy, but the most wonderful of all is that I volunteer with the kindergarten classes at Wilderness Elementary School in Spotsylvania, Virginia. I'm doing arts and crafts with nearly 100 wonderful creative kids. Oh, crikey. This is my second school year. From painted hands to bleeding tissue paper, they create masterpieces. In the spring of 2022, I cut out over 1,000 hexes from fabric scraps in my stash, collected stickers and purchased little red buttons. They morphed into ladybugs. Each student was given a purple hexie for the centre of their flower and then picked through the jumble of hexes in a tub for the petals. A lot of thought went into their selections, and the results were incredible. The halls were decorated with these masterpieces, which were later added to their Me book, documenting their year in kindergarten. I'm doing this project again in spring 2023. Spending time with these amazing, creative kids brings me joy, and the rewards are priceless. Delightful conversations and lots of hugs are included. Thank you so much for your lovely podcast, Jackie Big E. And now we have Bridget Carpenter from Whitstable in Kent, in the UK. Hi Sue, I would like to nominate the Profanity Embroidery Group in Whitstable as the thing which has brought me much needed sunshine in 2022. We're a bunch of artists who revel in stitchery, which celebrates our nation's colourful heritage of colourful language. Meeting every Wednesday in the pub to stitch and swear about life has been a lifeline, especially since the end of lockdown, as we struggled to come back together. As well as working towards our annual PEG exhibition, we had a fabulous weekend gently poking fun at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. We're just now collaborating with Vanessa Ma's Domestic Duster project and invite everyone to contribute a special sweary version. But the 25 members have supported each other in so many other ways. Through my PEG friends, I have been encouraged to put my non-sweary work into 3 exhibitions in a local gallery this year. This has been a big step forward for me, and I wouldn't have done it without their encouragement. We've done walks together in the depths of winter along freezing beaches, enjoyed gallery trips, and visited some gardens. Books have been lent, fabrics dyed, houses and dogs sat, members taken to visit sick partners in hospital, divorces agonised over, and life's ups and downs listened to. I wouldn't have got through 2022 without my PEG friends, and 2023 will be no different. Thanks, Sue. Best wishes from Bridget. And then I also had a message from Annie Taylor, who is another PEG member, and both Bridget and Annie have an episode on Stitchery Stories as well from a number of years ago now. Anyway, Annie writes, Bridget shared what she has written and I couldn't have put it better, so I'm not even going to try. PEG is a wonderful thing. Next up, Pauline Hayward from East Yorkshire in the UK. Hello Sue, you asked what was memorable this year. Sharing the joy. My first thought was our Yorkshire and Humber embroidery group summer school, but then I realised that was preaching to the converted. So the thing that really stands out more than any other is being part of the Embroiderers Guild stand at the Knitting and Stitching show in Harrogate recently. That was November 2022. The world's longest embroidery, started in 2003, was as popular as ever, and it was great to see all ages stitch their contribution and then take a photograph to show everyone. But the highlight was decades, which showed the journey of embroidery and textile art in the UK over the last 90 years of Embroidery magazine, with some stunning examples from the Guild collection. The visitors were thrilled, not just by seeing all the fabulous work, but by the memories it brought, and that was not preaching to the converted. Cheers from Pauline Hayward. I have to agree with Pauline. I also helped out at the Guild stand at the Knitting and Stitching show in Harrogate, and yes, I found it was just so invigorating to be chatting with people and talking about the different styles of embroidery through that decades exhibit, and it was just wonderful really to see that and share it, particularly with a lot of young girls who are currently doing textiles at school. Morning Sue. This is from Claire Mort, a past guest too. Textile art for me is like breathing, it's necessary. This year has been really hard for me with a bereavement and various other life shizzles. Being able to keep up my practice has been like a healing salve that always brings me joy. It is like the gift that keeps on giving. The glue in this joyous adventure are the amazing people on Instagram who are my dear friends, even though I haven't met most of them in real life. We've all got friends like this, haven't we? Particularly in the stitching community. The biggest shout out goes to Ovo Bloom, aka Helen Wild. We have laughed our heads off all year and cried and stitched. The joy of embroidery is not only the food for your soul, but the connection with others. Also, a huge shout out to Ellie Ansell, who is another awesome friend. She has huge pom-poms for me and my work, and I am very lucky to have her in my life and to have people that wave pom-poms for you and you wave for them too. So the joy is creativity and connection. Happy New Year, you amazing textile community. Thank you, Claire. Yeah, got loads of virtual friends as well, you included. And now we're dashing off to Switzerland with Claire de Portail, who runs a fabulous blog called Le Temps de Broder. My joy story of 2022. A few years ago I created my website about embroidery, but unfortunately it wasn't enough for me to live by. I struggled to make ends meet for a couple of years. And then I got a job in the most amazing haberdashery you could dream of. 7 rooms full to bursting of creative material for textile lovers, and 1 room dedicated to embroidery. It's my little paradise. I have ideas, threads, fabrics, and even students. And all thanks to Fabienne Shannon from the Atelier de Passe-Temps in the lovely medieval little town of Romont in Switzerland. And I do apologise for my awful pronunciation. Working there is just so wonderful. Happy New Year to all. That's from Claire from Le Temps de Broder in Bulle, Switzerland. Hello Susan, this is Alice the Man in Space, which I happen to know is aka Claudia. I am an oil painter falling in love with embroidery in 2021, drawing, painting and experimenting with thread ever since. Lots of lovely people have inspired me on my adventurous journey. Charisma Chugani and Jemina Romero on Domestica. And then I've got some Instagram handles here. Seam Collective, Merjam Textiles, Zen Stitching, Lemon Pepper Studio, Sashiko.lab. And last but not least, Stitchery Stories podcast. Thanks to you all and Merry Christmas. Best from outer space, Alice the Man in Space. I have to go and check out Alice the Man in Space now, an intriguing name. And our next one, I'm not quite sure where this lady is, Arlene Dale. My wins for 2022 were all the huge items I actually finished. 2 queen-size knitted blankets, a top-down sweater, and a complicated textured knitted cowl. That's only the knitted items. Finishing up is such a terrific feeling. I saw this quote in the Inspirations weekly newsletter today. The writer's mother told her, "Finish 2 items for every one you start." I'm trying that on this year ahead. Wish me luck controlling my overly creative mind that gets so excited to start something beautiful when I have so many projects I want to make and need to finish. P.S. Now, Arlene also sent me this in reply to my question, what is your favourite technique? My favourite technique is definitely hand applique with embroidery and bead embellishments. And as a further tidbit, I'm a fibre artist who teaches many crafts, quilting, embroidery, sewing, knitting, crochet, to name a few. I have an online academy called Circles of Learning Academy. I've taught these crafts for many years at a local college, and good luck with your projects. Happy making, Arlene Dale. Hi Susan, I'm Christine Simpson. I live in London, UK. I'm a person who stammers. I'm retired, but I volunteer for Stammer, the national charity for the stammering community. What has given me great joy this year is getting started on some proper embroidery projects after a long break and using them to raise awareness of stammering. I have finished a piece, Women Who Stammer, which is in very fine needlepoint, including a cross-stitch alphabet pattern I found on Etsy. I've also completed a clock in backstitch. Both pieces have been used on social media, using one passion to spread the word about the other. You can see these pieces on my Instagram account at Christines976, but a couple of pieces at the moment, but watch this space. As for inspiration, I want to give a shout out to the creator of that alphabet, Lucy Barton, at freckle.doll on Insta. Her alphabets and other patterns are amazing, inspirational and so individual. I used her alphabet because it resonated with me, as it is variations on a theme. Each letter has some similarities but differences too, just like us women who stammer. Lastly, thank you, Sue. Listening to other people's experiences on your podcast has got me started on embroidery again. I'm ignoring the embroidery police, and I'm so grateful for that. Happy New Year from Christine Simpson. An interesting story here now from Amy. My name is Amy C. Belland. I maintain 2 blogs, one of which is a tea blog, Tea with Amy. And it's about my tea experiences with tea reviews, books on tea, or any books that might contain tea activities. Lately, this has been my focus for finding tea in anything that I am reading. I had read and reviewed this book titled Jane and the Unpleasantness at Scargrave Manor, which places, as a my note, which places Jane Austen as a character in a novel playing amateur detective. And I remembered reading these words about one of Jane's activities. I seated myself over some needlework, the better to marshal my thoughts, for I had formed a dangerous resolution at dinner and should never have a better opportunity to act upon it. So, Jane fancied stitching and was quite good at this, as I have come to find out, from the book entitled Jane Austen's Embroidery by Jenny Batchelor and Alison Larking. And Amy has done a video of her book review on that, and includes Alison's website. Now, funnily enough, Alison was my first ever Stitchery Stories guest, and there is also an episode where I chat with Jenny and Alison about their book, and Jenny has a separate episode too. So, Tea with A&E has become a blog promoting other tea enthusiasts that are doing good things within the world of tea vendors and tea bloggers who are producing tea or have written a book on tea. Get a shout out from Tea with A&E through a blog post. Now, I had been aware of sites like Lady Anne's Needlework and the Crewel Work Company, and had seen teaching an online course on how to make a historic coif. I never get that word right, sorry. I connected this teaching on my tea blog, although at the time I didn't think needlework and having tea goes together, because you don't want to spill your tea while doing some intricate work such as stitching. However, from having read this mystery with Jane Austen, I was able to somehow connect the two into a blog post. And she gives that link as well. Anyway, this was a joy to have stumbled across that Jane Austen favoured stitching, and books had been written about her passion for stitching. I never thought to search for this. I have read and reviewed a few of Austen's books, or books written by others about her, and I've enjoyed and reviewed them in my blog. This has brought me some joy. Find your passion and stick with it. When I was younger, I did know how to do embroidery of small items. It is an interest now to simply view others creating such lovely things. Thank you, and happy holidays from Amy. Now, what I love about this story from Amy is it highlights the lovely power of the internet to help us stumble upon new things in an entirely random kind of way. Taking tea was an important social ritual, wasn't it, in the times and society of Jane Austen? And books have helped Amy to discover Jane Austen's love of stitching. And from there, she's found Jenny and Alison's book. And from there, Stitchery Stories podcast. And I know that we all love to have a cuppa on the go while stitching and making, don't we? But yes, make sure we don't make a mess. So actually, Amy, a blog about tea with some posts about stitching is a lovely idea. Now we're heading off to Ontario in Canada, and another Sue. Hi Sue, needlework brings me many joys and some moments of self-doubt. Oh, I think we can all relate to that one, Sue. This year I attended an in-person class at our Embroiderers Association of Canada seminar. The class was called Stitch Your Own Story with Mike Parr. For a good number of years, I had thought I wanted to stitch my own story from moving from England and living in various places in Canada to the present time, but as usual had never got past the, I really should do this stage. The class was inspiring and I buckled down and completed my story needlework piece, and I am delighted with the results. The only drawback is that my children both think they should have it and that I should stitch another one. Mike is an inspiring teacher and would make a lovely guest for you. I have long thought that some of our talented needlework teachers would be guests on your show. My other joy is my online embroidery group, EAC Virtual Threads. This is a very active group that always has something neat going on. They keep me challenged and excited about all things stitch related. I'm looking forward to another year of needlework podcasts. Thanks, Sue Thomas. Right now we're heading back to England. Hi Susan, my name is Natalie Tidy and I live in rural Lancashire, just north of Preston. 2022 saw me become a student at the School of Stitched Textiles. I have always wanted to do this course and finally I am. I'm doing the level 4, level 4 in knitting, and even though I'm only a few weeks into it, I am loving it. It's allowing me to study great art and be inspired by it to change my knitting. It's challenged me to think about design and art, and I'm loving every second. So that's with the School of Stitched Textiles. And again, I had a really great chat with Gail, who runs the School of Stitched Textiles. So go ahead and go and find Gail's episode. Oh, and another past guest here, Sima Carr. Hi Susan, hope you're well. The thing that brought me joy this year was creating an embroidery collection for a shop called Unpolished Space in Stow-on-the-Wold. And for those of you who don't know, Stow-on-the-Wold is a market town in the Cotswolds area of Gloucestershire here in England. These embroideries were on the theme of Indian fairgrounds, and embroidering women swallowing swords, breathing fire and balancing on tightropes was such a treat. Well, crikey, I'm not surprised. And I've got the link in there for you to go and have a look at those fab pictures from Sima in her very distinctive style as well. So yeah, they're great. Women swallowing swords, and I'm sure we all breathe fire rather too much these days. And now off we go to San Antonio in Texas. And Barbara Legene, I'm sorry if I say that wrong, Barbara. Hello, Susan. This is Barbara Legene from San Antonio in Texas. The biggest joy bringer for me has been Anne Wood at AnneWoodHandmade.com. She has the most delightful patterns for sale and also some for free. I've purchased at least 5 of her patterns and I've made more than a dozen of her free patterns too. I can't count all of the little handmade mice I've made, but no worries, as I've also made a number of cats to keep them all under control. And right now, the mice and the cats are sailing the seven seas in a few of her papier-mâché boats. Oh, brilliant. You can find Anne on Instagram, and obviously Barbara's also on Instagram. I've got the links in this episode. Thank you, Susan, for all your interesting podcasts, which also bring us such joy. Have a happy new year from Barbara. Right, we're bombing back over to Essex in the UK with Jane Cook. Jane's contributed to some of these before. Hi, Sue. I've loved my therapeutic stitch group called Stitch to Enrich, which uses the principles of mindful and slow stitching. My group continues to thrive, and we have been joined by 2 Ukrainian young mums whose families have recently joined our church. We have just made lots of stitched Christmas decorations to be included in parcels for needy and lonely people in our community. My original stitch meditation workshop idea has taken off, and I have led 17 groups during the year, including primary school children, teenagers and adults. I also developed and exhibited a body of work as part of a textile group I belong to, first time since I was a student in 1984, and I sold 2 3D pieces. Oh, well done, Jane. That's brilliant. Best wishes, Jane. And I just want to add that I can see that through her efforts, hard work and ideas, that Jane is bringing a lot of joy to others too. So thank you, Jane, for sharing your groups and how much joy they bring to others. And now we're staying in the UK and just a bit down the coast with Kaz Holmes. She's in Kent. So from Kaz, being able to attend my exhibition preview and talk at the Sevenoaks Visual Arts Forum at Sevenoaks Kaleidoscope Gallery recently was Kaz's main joy. And that's because this is the first exhibition that I've been able to attend of my work in the UK since my partner had a stroke. That it was possible for me to attend was down to support from the Kent charity Involve and support from my friends and the Sevenoaks Visual Arts Forum. Now, Kaz also notes here that she says, I was also able to attend the opening of this event in Antwerp in June, but was so thrilled to be able to see it in my home county. I have been involved with several exhibitions this year and have not attended one in person. I am grateful for my colleagues and friends who have helped, and I have been able to attend via Zoom. So there is a new story in there somewhere, Sue. Stitch creativity in adversity. All the best, Kaz. Right, let's zoom across the world and let's go and see what Jenny Marie Tempest has to say. And oh yes, Kaz is also an ex-guest, so go and check out her episode from a long time ago. We had a real good chat with Kaz. And Jenny Marie Tempest from Australia is also a past guest. So, from Jenny Marie, this year I have spent quite a lot of my artistic time concentrating on perfecting 3D Banksia flowers and seed cones. Once I developed a formula for free motion stitch onto water-soluble fibre, I was able to translate this to many different Banksia flower forms. This exploration will continue into 2023, and with so many species of Banksia, and hopefully even a solo exhibition dedicated to this stunning flower form. Thanks, Sue, and a Happy New Year. Regards, Jenny Marie Tempest. Now, something I would just like to add on there as well is that I know that with the nearing completion of her much longed for workshop and studio space and guest accommodation, that Jenny Marie will be bringing joy to many other creative souls in her welcoming creative spaces in 2023. Back over now. Oh, we're off up to Scotland with Jean. Hello, Sue. I'm Jean, a retired youth worker and enthusiastic embroiderer based in Scotland, in chilly East Lothian. The people I would like to give a shout out to for bringing joy are the organisers and staff of ICHF, International Craft and Hobby Fair Limited. They're based in Highcliffe in Dorset, so they run a lot of those large shows. Anyway, every year they run the Madeira competition entitled Glimpses of this or that. Then it's up to you how you interpret that theme. For instance, I took part in Glimpses of Royalty, That was in 2019. And more recently, there was Glimpses of the Islands. These competitions give amateurs like me a chance to exhibit at large, iconic venues, which is quite a thrill. Instead of toiling away aimlessly on your own, it's great to be given a subject to think about, a focus to work towards, and a platform for sharing your work. Some extra joy came my way this year when an ICHF marketing assistant invited me to redisplay my Glimpses of Royalty embroidered piece. That was of Elizabeth I, with her big white ruff and all, in London as part of a special feature themed around the Platinum Jubilee celebrations. I couldn't have been more delighted. Also, my Glimpses of the Islands entry, an embroidery of a 1920s female traveller on a boat wafting past a Hawaiian island, although not a winner at Birmingham NEC, was included in Best of the Rest for extended exhibitions in London, Exeter, Farnborough and Glasgow. It means that picture has actually roamed about and been a lot further than I've been myself recently. I couldn't recommend these kinds of opportunities highly enough for providing textile practitioners with something constructive to aim for. There might be pleasant surprises along the way and possibly even a much-needed endorphin levels boost now and again. Joy to all Stitchery Stories listeners for 2023. All the best, and thank you for your absolutely marvellous guests and conversations. From Jean. And as a note from me, I couldn't agree more with Jean. I enjoy entering similar challenges and competitions organised by the Embroiderers Guild. Same kind of thing. It's the joy of taking part and the excitement when it's displayed at a major venue. You know, not something that most of us will be able to achieve on our own, but as part of an organised exhibition like that and a competition. Wow, is it exciting to see our piece? And I've had a couple of pieces as well that have gone on travels and have travelled to places I haven't been to. So yeah, always exciting. Eastbourne in the UK. So heading down south to the bottom of the UK from Scotland. Hello, Sue. This is from Catherine Laws. I have found my creativity heading in a different direction during 2021 and into 2022. I am now concentrating on designing and making one-off coats and jackets. So previously, I'll just say that Catherine has run workshops and, general textile art, stitch landscapes, that kind of thing. So she's now heading off in a different direction. I have many beautiful fabrics, linens, silks, velvets, cottons collected over the years, and I am using them to create the garments. I have had a few commissions, and I am working on 2 at the moment. I am slowly writing about the inspirations and the stories behind all the work I made when living back in New Zealand between 2008 and 2013. I'm reconnecting to my roots, finding out where my interest in fabrics, sewing and creating come from in my family lineage. One grandfather was a master tailor in the City of London. A great-grandfather was an opera singer. All those glorious fabrics are speaking to me now with the touches of their voices echoing through. In 2021, I joined sketching and photography groups run by an exceptional artist and photographer called Ant Grant, and we explored the physical, natural and man-made landscapes of Eastbourne seafront. I still continue with the photography almost every day and live with a superb view of the channel from my windows. It's only a short walk down to the water. My inspiration comes from the light and drama of the skies, the water, fabrics I find to mix with others, patterns old and new, pictures from Pinterest, and I'm always inspired by the work of Kim Titichai. Probably said that wrong as well, I do apologise. I spruced up my Etsy shop with photos taken by Ant Grant, and she's got her Etsy shop link there in the post, and I wish you all a peaceful and happy New Year. Now, as I mentioned at the start, I'd also sent out, for another reason, and I guess it kind of clashed, I sent out and asked everybody, what's your favourite technique? I was very intrigued to see what would come back. And lots of people, thank you very much for your replies, kind of gave me a 1 or 2 sentence about what it is that you actually liked, which was fantastic. And then a few people kind of wrote a bit more, which actually also then tied in with this idea of joy and the joy bringers. There's a lot of shout outs of other people. So I've taken a selection of those people who wrote a bit more, wrote me a little story, and I've included those as well. So these next contributors all replied to the question of what is your fave technique. And I'm going to start here with Chris Fraser. Hi Sue, your email touched the Achilles heel of my stitching. I'm a sucker for anything different, new to me at least, and needing a fresh set of supplies and equipment. Chris, I think you're talking to us all here. As you can imagine, this has consequences, some negative and some positive. For example, I sign up to more courses, initiatives and projects than I have time to complete successfully. I'm never bored. I learn a little about a lot of things and meet many people. I buy the book, which will help with the course, but then I need a new bookshelf or two. Then, of course, we need more bookshelves and we need a bigger room, don't we? And off we go again. I enjoy reading and I get pleasure from researching the background to and the history of techniques and artists, collections and gadgets. I have a stash well beyond my life expectancy, including a collection of vintage and recycled fabrics. I can store it at present. I can nearly always find a bit of what I or my friends want for experimental work, small projects, etc. I own and have to store many tools, some of which I can't remember what they were bought for. Oh yes, we've all done it. Usually I can find just the thing to help me get a job done. I am the recipient of other people's curiosities that need a good home, for example, crocheted doilies, Kay's practical embroiderer book, etc. Okay, so I have to store them, but I enjoy trying them out and researching their history. If pressed, I should say hand embroidery is my go-to technique because it is so versatile, portable, and is little in the way of equipment or supplies. Being part butterfly and part magpie, I shall never become a great textile artist or an expert in any technique, nor shall I have a swoon-worthy workroom. However, I shall continue to have the company of like-minded friends, personal fulfilment, and lots of fun. With all the best wishes for a joyous and peaceful new year, Chris Fraser. Thanks, Chris. I think you've touched. I'm sure everybody's sitting here nodding their head going, yeah, that's me. Message here from Sandra McFarlane. Dear Sue, I do like silk embroidery, single thread. I did a course with ornamental embroidery run by Lynn House and Nicola Jarvis. I made a casket with the concept of climate change and had looked at the things we could lose. So I made an oak tree and I've made other raised work too. Nicola is a very good artist and she drew the pictures, but I also love the work done by Jenny Aiding Christie, and at the moment I am making her owl. And I will just say, several people in their notes to me mentioned how much they love Nicola Jarvis' work and also using the kits and work from Jenny Aiding Christie too. So shout out to both of those. Okay, off we go over to Grafton in New South Wales in Australia. Hi Sue, thanks for your friendly email, I appreciate it. I very much enjoy your podcasts. They give me inspiration and a yearning to be better at my stitches. I am a give it a go and determined kind of person, and all I can say is that when I am giving it a go, then I'm in another peaceful realm, for want of a better word. My real passion, which I can proudly admit I've excelled in, is crochet. I had my first lesson when I was 18 with an elderly lady who my father knew, and he used to drive me to her beautiful home in the evening. After marrying young, I left my hometown and continued to dabble in basic crochet over the years. Had a long break, then came back to it when I was in a happier frame of mind and explored some advanced patterns and happily exceeded with the great encouragement of like-minded friends. I'm having a break from it at the moment as my right thumb, index and middle finger are slightly deformed, and my doctor, who also crochets, said it's been caused from the crocheting. But I'm not giving up entirely though. And in the meantime, in the new year, I will get back into patching quilting. Wish me luck. As I have found my high school best friend back in my hometown, then we will explore again this old craft. Anyway, I need a quilt for my bed in my new home. Best wishes, Sue, for a very happy new year. Thanks again for your fascinating podcast, Kay Ruth Richards. Thank you, Kay, for that one. Paula McGregor. Where's Paula from? She's from the UK, I know that much. Paula, hi Sue, I love slow stitching, especially making slow stitched books. I have quite the little library of them now. I have a Facebook group called Slow Stitch Books, Ellen's Legacy, which has got over 5,500 members to it. And at home, we don't have a TV, so my favourite thing to do in the evenings is listen to audio stories and podcasts while stitching slowly. So thank you for that, Paula. Paula's contributed in the past, and I've got the links to her community art collaborations and her Facebook group as well. Okay, now, next one. Osden Clow. Hi, Sue. I teach textile art and try to give those I teach autonomy to create their own embroideries and their own designs. I do that by focusing on colour and composition and drawing and looking at how various simple stitches can be used and transformed. I do love both contemporary and traditional embroidery, and I'm a big fan of Ottoman embroidery. I love looking at various traditions from around the world, and my passion is learning new techniques and traditions and teaching. Oz. Good morning, this is from Lee Harris. Good morning, my favourite technique is layering fabrics, always pre-loved or vintage, stitching them together and then getting my trusted soldering iron out. Doesn't every sewer have one? And burning through the layers between the stitch lines to expose the different fabrics underneath. I love the element of surprise. And I then embellish the piece with hand and machine embroidery. Wishing you a very happy sewing new year from Lee. That's a great one, Lee. Actually, I don't have a soldering iron, but do you know, that's set me off now, hasn't it? I think I might have to go get one and go and have a play. Right, next one, Fiona Jeffries. Another lovely story here from Fiona. So, after many years of other needlecrafts and collecting fabric, none of us do that, do we? I finally had the courage to try patchwork and quilting. Soon it was an obsession, something to calm me while raising 4 children. I even began teaching around it, working around my home, educating my youngest and immediately spending any profits on adding to the stash. To be honest, my husband occasionally asked if I really was enjoying it, as each stage seems to have its problems and frustration. But a day without stitching is not a good day. However big my fabric stash is though, I've recently realised that my thread stash is actually relatively bigger. Perfectly reasonable perhaps, since I began stitching lazy daisies with my gran when I was 4. As a teenager, I appropriated the embroidery threads left by a great-aunt to make a sampler, and I now have her top-of-the-line 1936 Singer treadle. Did I mention my collection of sewing machines? As a new mum in 1991, I moved into cross-stitch and tried lots of other crafts along the way. Recently, though, that thread stash is coming in very handy for mixed media textile pieces and personalising gifts. I'm currently, amongst other things, working on a Sidi-style panel to transform scraps into pockets for a canvas bag. It's very relaxing, although I do have to force myself to make random choices. As I stitch, I often wonder what my gran would make of it. Best wishes from Fiona. And I did have to go and look up Sidi style. So go and have a look at Sidi. I'll put a link in there as well. So it's quite interesting what we can do with our scraps and our ingenuity. Okay, over to New York and Harriet Alonso. Hi Sue. I've enjoyed many episodes of your show. I live in the Bronx in New York, although I'm a newbie here, having just moved 2 months ago from my native land of Brooklyn. Anyway, I started doing canvas embroidery and needlepoint around 1973. I love crewel work and freestyle embroidery as well. And I especially love when people express progressive political views in their work. There are so many younger stitchers who do feminist embroidery, and there are a bunch of folks who've done beautiful work on the pandemic, on wars and climate change. If you go to my website, harrietalonso.com, then you can see what I do and what I love. Have a happy holiday season, Sue, and welcome back to Podcast Land. It's great to have you back. All the best from Harriet. And Harriet's actually a Professor Emerita of History at City College of New York and has written books on subjects around women's peace union, peace as a women's issue, growing up an abolitionist, etc. So obviously her interest in history collides with the topics of interest in textile art as well. So I thought it was an interesting note there from Harriet. So thank you, Harriet. Right, back over the Atlantic, Prestatyn in North Wales from Moya McCarthy. Whilst I love free machine embroidery on all sorts of fabrics, including dissolvable fabrics, I've been hand stitching more since the COVID pandemic. I particularly enjoy working in neutral shades on a calico background, exploring decorative stitches and textural effects of those Calico Gardens techniques, and you can go and look that up. And again, I put some links in there. I've been inspired by the work of Irene Coulthard and April Gilchrist, and lately by Angie Burt. I find the neutral palette of the many different threads I use very peaceful and calming. From Moya. So I went and had looked up that one as well, and I'm an absolute colour addict, but I do find and greatly admire those kind of neutral shades and the Calico Gardens technique. So another technique for you to all go and look at there, Calico Gardens. So we're back in Australia here with Faye Cook. I love all forms of hand sewing, be they embroidery or quilting, etc. I taught myself initially embroidery, then did some long-distance correspondence embroidery courses with the New South Wales Embroiderers Guild in Australia when I was in my 20s. Since then I've learned crocheting and quilting, and the last few years I've combined it all together to make art quilts, often with 2D crocheted embellishments. I also paint watercolours, which I use as backgrounds in my quilts, and I alter old books and make fabric books. I'm just not good at sitting still and doing nothing. I'm just one of those crafty folks which amazes people, because when you meet me in person, I don't come across as being one of them. I'm in my mid-60s, and while my style of crafting has gone through many changes, my love for it has never changed. If anything, it's stronger. Thank you for asking. I'm hoping you get lots of interesting replies. Thanks from Faye. What can I say? I've really enjoyed reading through. I've read through these stories many times and going and thinking, I don't know much about that, and going and checking the links and finding some of these inspirations. So, I've personally found it a really interesting exercise in just finding out what you all love and being able to facilitate you to cheer on the people who've also brought you creative joy. So remember, all of the links and information, and crikey, there's a lot, are all on the episode on stitcherystories.com. And please share it with everybody. It's great to share what we all love, and then we can add more joy to more people's lives. So I wish you all the love and luck in the world for 2023. Let's get creative. Let's keep on bringing joy to people, and let's keep on creating our very own Stitchery Stories. I'll be back in 2023. Catch you all later. Cheers, Sue. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, then please join the Stitchery Stories fan club so you can get an email when a new episode is released. It's a quick and easy way of listening and of keeping up with any news and information around this podcast. Please visit stitcherystories.com. Of course, you can listen to Stitchery Stories on plenty of podcast apps at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and plenty more besides. You can also ask your smart speaker to play Stitchery Stories podcast too. But wherever you listen, why not leave us a rating and a review to encourage other people to listen too? I very much appreciate you taking the time to do that for me. So that is the end of our Stitchery story for today. Keep stitching, keep smiling, and keep creating your very own Stitchery Stories.